Walking skeletons are a sure sign that some evil wizard is getting up to no good. Minsk is quite certain that the skeletons should be sleeping in their graves, not ambulating around as if in search of midnight snacks. And now you say they have crowns and plate mail and magic swords? Are there no depths to which evil will not sink? And what does evil find down there anyway? Boo would like to know.
Welcome to another episode of the It's a Mimic podcast, where I, Megan, sit down with a couple of other amazing ladies to dig up the dirt on the Undead in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. For this episode, I've resurrected Casey and Miaca, so we can sink our teeth into this episode, which is called Skeletons, having a bone to pick with the heroes.
This episode on the It's a Mimic channel is going to cover the most dangerous kind of skeleton, the Skull Lord, who is just bad to the bone. We've previously covered all sorts of skeletons on the regular It's a Mimic podcast, and you can find the list of episodes in our Monsters episode guide on our website or on our YouTube channel. But for now, there are still a few that are worth polishing off.
But before we dig up the dirt on these bony baddies, I want to ask a question. Do you think skeletons are still relevant as horror monsters, or have we as a civilization gotten to the point where they feel almost mundane?
Okay, are we going to breeze past the fact that we're talking about bones and you said polishing off? We're just going to let that one go?
Wow. Thanks, Adam.
The absolute worst.
But to your point, Miaca, I don't know. I don't think that they're irrelevant in any way, shape, or form. I think they're a more creative way to have undead fodder, you know? Mm-hmm. I also think that, like, because you can make a skeleton out of anything that is living, I think that the opportunities are technically endless. And that's why I don't think that they're necessarily overly as mundane as we think they are. I just think we're not using them the way they should be used.
Yeah.
Right?
Like, if I see a skeleton in a haunted house, so for the listeners, haunted houses are, like, one of my, like, I'm terrified of them. Do not put me in a haunted house.
You know what, Miaca? I am not surprised. I feel like you're the person that when you went through a haunted house, you'd be throwing people in front of you.
Yeah, that's what I do. I, like, hide, like, in people. Like, just don't look at me. I don't know to look at me. No, but, like, if I saw a skeleton in a haunted house, I would be terrified. But, like, in D&D, if we're, like, in a dungeon or whatever, and one pops out, it's like, let's just smack it. Like, I don't care.
Yeah, let's get rid of this shit. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Fair. Yeah, I think the basic skeleton, perhaps, but there's so much more that a skeleton can be.
It's true.
So if you don't realize that, you're missing out.
Yeah. Weird Megan lore. I don't like bones. I hate bones. I hate meat that's on bones. I don't like bones.
Okay.
Like, it's just a weird thing that I have where just the idea of it being, like, surrounded by sinew and flesh at one point and now it is not weirds me out. So, like, if I'm at a meal or having dinner or something like that, I cannot eat meat off of a bone. Like, it has to be removed and I don't want to look at it.
So, boneless.
Boneless everything.
Boneless everything.
For the only way in my life will I say that I need to be boneless, it is when it comes to
when it comes to my food without bone is the jam.
Yeah, you just don't fucks with bones, man. I'm just not about it. So, maybe that's why I don't feel like skeletons are, like, you know, I don't think they're mundane. I think that there's a lot to do with the fact that it is an animated, compartmentalized part of a human or an animal is just absolutely disgusting to me. Yeah. Yeah, it's like the whole thing where, like, we talked in our last episode about the boneless.
Yeah.
Equally as gross.
Yeah.
Now we're talking about just bones. Like, there has to be a middle ground here, ladies. But anyways, I digress. All right, let's talk about the skeleton. Before we get into some of the cooler versions that we're going to talk about today, these bodacious, bony bitches, let's just talk about the base skeleton. You can find most of this info right inside the 5th edition base monster manual, but the TLDR of a skeleton is that they are raised dead, usually from some form of dark necromantic magic, whether purposely or even by accident, when dead bony bodies are found themselves surrounded by some kind of magic. How exciting. As a reanimated dead thing, some key things to note is that they do not have any connection to their past selves. So we've talked about a couple of undead things that, of course, have some kind of connection mentally to their previous selves. Skeletons, base, don't. In fact, so much that they are considered to be obedient servants, which just means that they are bending to the will of their creator, if they have one. They cannot read, speak, emote, or communicate in any other way other than simple body language like shaking its head or waving its hands. Great. Yeah. They can do most things like wield weapons or follow very detailed explanations of things, which I think is hilarious because it reads to me as if you were dealing with a child who needs specific instructions or they will assemble the sandwich backwards.
Yeah.
Right? Other things to note is that they lose, if they lose their master, they will then just act as how they know how to. So they are creatures of habit, basically, is the easiest way to describe this. So if they are told to do evil things or fight anything that moves, they will continue to do so out of a generated habit. And since being created usually through dark means, they are compelled to kill the living. So will do so with very little regard to their own survival. They do not have the instinct to keep themselves safe. They will just fight you until you are dead. And if you kill them, they're like, oh, me first. Like, it's, that's just how they roll.
One track mind.
Right? And of course, they are undead, so they don't require air, food, drink, or sleep. So, let's talk about their stats. They are a medium-sized creature that are lawful evil, which checks out as they are inherently evil, but told to do so. So they believe what they are doing is normal. They have an AC of 13 with scraps of armor, but let's be real, if I was to DM a skeleton, I would give it some fucking armor.
Why not?
Right?
Yeah.
Especially if it's a humanoid creature. Throw a fucking metal plate on it and be like, okay, get it now. They do have very few hit points and a speed of only 30, so they are kind of like your mundane skeleton human. They are below average in all skills, except for Dex and Con, which have a +2, which to me just does scream Army Grunt. Not very exciting.
Yeah.
They're vulnerable to bludgeoning damage, which, again, I find hilarious, because they are a bag of bones waiting to be smashed.
They will just crumble.
Right? They are, of course, immune to poison and being exhausted. They also have dark vision and a passive perception of mind. It understands all languages that it knew in its previous life, which we have mentioned a lot of the times when it comes to undead, but of course they cannot speak. Which is pretty cool, because it understands everything you're saying to it if it knows what your language is, but it's like...
And can take direction.
Yeah.
But then that's it.
But it's a simple direction, again, because they have a below-average intelligence, so they're just kind of like...
Yeah.
Gregory, what do you want me to do?
Yeah, there you go.
All of this makes them a CR of a whopping 1/4.
1/4.
As actions, they can melee attack with a +4 to hit and do a whopping average of 5 damage. Of course, they also have a short, they can also use a short bow with the same statistics. So basically, you can either make yourself a melee character or an archer out of your basic skeleton bag of bones.
Mm-hmm.
So, rules as written. As I mentioned, skeletons can't talk. Do you think you'd have more fun with them if they did? Yeah? Am I sitting here with a bunch of skeletons right now? Do you need me to roll dice? Do you need me to give you simple instructions?
Oh my god, yes. Yes or no answers from now on.
Everybody roll dice. Roll some dice.
We need to know what turn we take, okay?
Need some direction, Megan.
Oh my god.
Alright, I rolled a 19, Casey rolled 11. Miaca, you're following us up with a 6. Alright, rules is written again, skeletons can't talk. Woo! Do you think you'd give them more fun if they could? Honestly, no. I think it's more fun that they can't.
Yeah.
Especially if you do make a more intelligent version of a skeleton, just for funsies, and it is trying to communicate with you. Like, I think that's more fun. And more, but again, it's kind of like the same concept that I always go back to talking to your kobolds, because they have a reason for being there. So this would be the hard one, because it's like, talk to your skeletons, because they are reanimated dead of somebody, and they're following someone, so getting information out of them would be ideally helpful.
Yeah.
But it would just be an interesting interaction to do so if you legitimately tried to talk to it. Also, if a skeleton doesn't attack you, like a base bones skeleton does not attack you, that means it wasn't trained to do so. That means it wasn't compelled or told to do so. Which means it was trained and compelled to do something else.
It's like, how do you figure
That's
out?
true.
Yeah.
So if you go in and there's a skeleton standing there, like, staring at you, it'd be like, what's up, my guy?
Yeah.
As opposed to immediately running your sword through it, I'd kind of take a pause and be like, wait a minute. Like, but again, this is like that weird, it's meta knowledge, but at the same time, it's kind of like, okay, if you've come across enough undead, you know that they're compelled to attack you. Mm-hmm. So this one doesn't.
Right.
I might take a pause and be like, no. How do I communicate with this thing? How do we figure out? And it might do a lot of pointing and such. I might give you a book or a pamphlet about its cult leader, but like, I think that they're more fun because they don't talk.
Pamphlet.
A pocket full of pamphlets for its cult.
It's like, what are you doing? He's just like...
Just hands you a pamphlet.
That's its job. It greets people and hands out the pamphlets at the door.
Honestly, iconic though. For
the usher at your wedding. It's just like, go sit over there.
No words needed.
Yeah, right? Do you guys have any other thoughts on these things not talking?
I agree. I think it's fun that they don't talk. It's fun. It's fun anyway.
Yeah. From like a player standpoint, I would just, I don't need to talk to you. I'm just going to kill you. I just want to hit you and watch you like just break apart and fall to the ground. But from a DM standpoint, like I think it would be cool like if they were talking and then make the players put together like the pieces of the puzzle. Mm-hmm. Like with the pamphlet, it's like, what? Like like you're not expecting a skeleton to like communicate with you, I think. So
I now just imagine, because you said put the puzzle together, imagining it just pulling out a box and like dumping puzzle pieces on the ground and being like, figure it out, bitch.
Again, honestly, iconic. Like,
yeah. That's its job. Mm-hmm. Or it's the one that holds the key if you say the right word to them, and they just like stand there and don't do anything until you say the right word, and there's just clues.
Oh my god, I'm imagining this.
I have no patience.
No patience.
I have no patience.
Haven't you played a character named Patience?
Wait. I think
no, that was just in our campaign. Your purpose.
Your purpose.
Like,
I'm like, wait,
just in our campaign.
Did I?
I don't know.
I don't remember. What have I done with my life? No, now I'm imagining a skeleton that has like a key around its neck, but it's like trying to hide it in between its bones, and it's just like holding its hand over top of it, and it's just like, this is mine. My only job is to protect this, but not attack you back. Aw. Alright, by basic lore, skeletons are completely different from other undead creatures, but how do you feel about encounters that team up skeletons with boneless from the last episode?
Oh gosh.
Or
we're still traumatized.
I know, right? Or having the flesh fall away from a zombie and making it a skeleton. Do you think that these are worthwhile enemies to come as a second wave in a combat encounter? Because, like, at the end of the day, remember, like, we talked about the boneless in the last episode. For those at the audience who don't know, a boneless essentially is a creature that was killed by dramatic means, whether being crushed or losing its bones are gross. Or it's skinned alive.
Right.
So that skin then becomes reanimated as a boneless. What happens to the bones? It could become a skeleton.
Right.
So I think that's dope as fuck. Because then you have an army of, like, these skinned, gross, bloody, veiny, like, muscle tissue just peeling off. Yeah. And then, like, you have this, like, nice, like, clean-picked skeleton right beside it. Yeah. Right?
Ugh, it's like the boneless could seep under the door and unlock the door for the skeletons to get in.
Self-sustaining army, Casey.
Working together.
Oh my god, okay, this is gonna be gross. But hear me out. So a boneless that wears a skeleton that wears a boneless as a cape. And throws it at you. So that you are then, because again, for those who at home don't know, the boneless have an ability that when they hit you with their 2 attacks, that you are now grappled and they are suffocating you and crushing you to death. So a skeleton runs in wearing this blanket cloak of a boneless, and then just whips it off and throws it at you.
Like a net.
Like a net.
As a player, I'd be damned if I go down because of a skeleton threw something at me. I'm not going out like
just
that.
Just rips its skin off itself and yeets it at you.
That cannot be the way I die.
I will not die this way.
Nope.
Yeah. And I like the idea of the second wave. Like, say you horde all these zombies into one area and you light that bitch up. And then you're like, well, our work is done here. Wonderful. And then all of those, like, charred bones just stand up, and now you're fighting a horde of skeletons. Why hasn't Walking Dead done that?
Because they don't play in D&D 5th edition. Different lore.
Horrifying, though.
Yeah, reminds me of the Dullahan.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Also covered in last episode. Highly recommend listening to the last episode.
Let's do the last episode,
It's a fucking train wreck, but it will help you with this episode.
Wow, man.
We're doing really good at our job of educating people on the undead in D&D 5th edition.
So much horror. Horror.
We do. I love that Miaca is on most of the episodes. We're just like, I will never go into a haunted house. And we're Casey and I are like, fuck this shit.
Yeah,
I'm gonna whip my skin at your face and you're gonna suffocate.
Something about haunted houses, man.
Light it up, light it up.
Especially the one from this guy's thing.
She's pointing at Curse of Strahd, by the way.
Curse of Strahd. Hated that house.
Fuck that bitch. All right, let's move on to more exciting things than just the base skeleton.
All right, so let's talk about the Skeleton Warrior. So you can find information in the Minsk and Boo's Journal of Villainy. This can be found online. You got to pay for the PDF, and Adam actually reviews it on the Patreon. So highly recommend that Patreon.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so they're just skeletons with like better armor and weapons, but they have more intelligence. So they probably move more fluidly and with more purpose. These are not your typical skeletons that you run into. They have a CR of 5. These are legit trained warriors. They were like nobles or adventurers who remember their old life. So they speak multiple languages and can talk to you. They are also just as effective at combat now as they were in their old lives. So they remember everything.
Warrior on warrior, yeah. Okay.
In order to bring one to unlife, a talented necromancer will collect whatever remains they can find to bring the skeleton warrior to life.
What are my thoughts braining?
Wait a minute.
I like to point out that nobody here is drinking but me. So you have no excuse.
You have traumatized me with cognac.
I did traumatize you with cognac.
Okay.
I am still recovering and I'm still drunk.
These episodes were definitely not recorded on the same day.
Okay. Sorry.
Who's gonna
Thought I
know?
was the wrong. Who's gonna know?
How would they know?
Alright. Alright. A necromancer controls the skeleton warrior through their soul circlet. This is a golden circlet that binds their soul to the living world. Whoever possesses the soul circlet has complete control over the skeleton. If the skeleton warrior ever gets a hold of this, they will usually destroy it and return to their eternal slumber. They usually act as big bodyguards, but sometimes necromancers have been known to make them go off and run their own little army of other skeletons, who will act smarter and have better tactics with a skeleton warrior leading them.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
So these are medium undead, and they are lawful evil. Has an AC of 18 and 12d8 plus 36 hit points.
Sam armor.
Yeah.
Again, armor your skeletons.
Yeah.
There you go. Bludgeoning from magical attacks are what will hurt this thing the most because, of course, magic being magic. And bludgeoning always hurts skeletons. However, they are resistant to necrotic and cold damage. You also can't poison these guys, and no non-magical items can do any damage. So this means they're immune to slashing, piercing, bludgeoning from regular attacks.
That checks out, because in my mind I'm like, why would that be? And it's because like the circlet is what is kind of keeping them.
Yeah.
It makes them more magical than not, right?
Yeah. Some condition immunities, charmed, exhaustion, frightened, and poisoned. They remember all languages from life, so you can have a combo with these guys. And dark vision sits at a whopping 120 feet.
Nice.
So some things that are annoying for players, they have advantage on saving throws against magical spells. So as far as actions go, they are able to make 2 attacks with the greatsword that has a +9 to hit and does 2d6 plus 6 slashing damage. The weirdest thing about them is that they don't have the unusual nature trait that most other undead have. That's the only thing that makes undead not need to sleep, food, drink, or air. It's missing for the skeleton warrior, which means that rules as written, they need to breathe and rest and eat. That's bullshit. I use my common sense and just add it. But take that out. Alright, I'm done.
I'm done with this shit.
Yeah.
Phenomenal.
It is weird that that's thrown back in. Because, like, where's the food gonna go?
I'm like, what is it doing? What is it like providing energy? Is it providing rage? Is it like,
Like what's... You were already brought back.
What's the point?
what is the point? What is the absolute point? Alright, let's raise some dice and have a conversation about these bitches.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I'm gonna say bony bitches a lot in this.
Bony bitches.
Oh god, this is my fault now. Okay, go. Okay, so Casey and I roll off with a 1.
Nat ones.
I rolled an 11. Casey
And
rolled a 2.
2.
So Miaca, you're first.
Alright.
Quest ideas. Like, it's hard to think of a quest idea for these, because they feel like grunts to me still.
Yeah, like... I have no respect for them.
A classic Miaca sentence.
Stop.
I feel like there's
No.
anything that you're going to be known for on the internet is, I have no respect for you.
Yeah.
And I think you're an idiot.
Like, I'm not gonna play games, I'm just gonna let you know now.
Yeah.
No, but like, quest idea, I mean, players coming across the weird, evil necromancer, I guess, and having to fight these guys, but maybe in some way they get that soul circlet back, and instead of like trying to destroy it, they're like, oh, I'm gonna stick around for a while.
Yeah.
And, yeah. Something like that,
That's
I guess.
true.
Yeah.
I forgot what I rolled against. Did I roll higher than you? I rolled an 11.
Yeah. I'm the last.
So, I do like to attach myself to this whole circlet business.
Mm.
The fact that the circlet is what gains the control and power over these things. So, I would almost want to, you are in a, I don't know, you're fighting some things, you're fighting a horde, and these things are almost intelligent enough to have a conversation with you about something. You find out it is being controlled, it doesn't actually want to do what it is doing, and now you are helping this skeleton get back its circlet so it can take over its own life.
Yeah.
You're basically playing like the genie in the lamp. You want to free him, right?
Right.
Or it's your friend that died and then is now raised with this circlet, and you're like, I want to get the circlet back so I can free my friend.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, you could spin it as freeing them. You could spin it as you just want to take control of this skeleton warrior army.
Yeah.
So your goal is to, like, get the circlet.
Yeah.
And maybe you would come across a skeleton warrior that did get free, and it's like the free elf. I'm free.
Dobby has been given a sock.
Like, I smashed the circlet. I am free.
Give me the circlet as a treat.
You know.
Like how we've turned these badass warriors into
Lame.
I feel like that's what we do here, though. We make everything seem worse than it actually is. I'm gonna skip body horror for this one. We're talking about skeletons. I feel like, like ad nauseum, we've talked about how gross it is here. The clacking of bones, like the nastiness of the sound of like their feet hitting the ground. Like it just like, again, for me, touching bones in general, not a vibe. So like we can skip body horror on these ones in my mind. So role playing and exploration clues for these. They are skeletons that wear armor.
There you go. That's it. And then the whole, just like trying them, the whole mission of helping them get their circlet back, only maybe to turn on the players, like once they get it back.
Ooh. I like that.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's not a whole heck of a lot, right?
No.
Because, like, these ones, did we say these ones can speak?
Yes, they can speak.
Yeah.
They know all the languages they knew in life.
Yeah. So, like, if these ones can speak and have that intelligence, I feel like that would be something to play on.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
But
The one time.
that one time that
one
skeleton
time.
said something to me. But, I mean, at the end of the day, I don't know. You got anything to add, Casey, to that one?
No, they're gonna be They're still just going to be the grunts. They're not going to be sneaky, really. They're going to be, we're guarding this, or we are waiting for someone to attack us, and we attack.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the big storyline option is the circlet, the fact that it is technically enslaved, that you're adding a couple of other humanoid aspects to it, but at the end of the day, it is a skeleton wearing a piece of armor.
Yeah.
Right?
So it's helpful to know that there is this piece of, or this type of skeleton if you're creating, like, I swear one of the things we've talked about in one of the Undead episodes was a, like, higher CR monster that could control these. Like, talked about having a circlet that potentially has the souls of creatures.
Mm-hmm.
So you could maybe even spin that off of, like, a bigger storyline.
Yeah.
So just remembering that there's these creatures with a circlet.
I'm
So.
imagining, and I'm only saying this because Miaca is the princess in the room, but like this pharaoh-like queen that is running an army of these like undead skeleton warriors, and she's just got like 3 or 4 circlets like going like the biggest
she's, like,
crown
covered in them.
like covered this giant crown formed of all of these circlets that she's put together, and like these big bangles like bracelets that are like the versions of these fucking, and that's what her army is built of.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then if you killed her or get rid of her in some way, shape, or form, all of these circlets and bangles and like all of like this giant crown, you are now the leader of an army of skeleton warriors.
Yeah. Very
That's
Game of Thrones-y
amazing.
too.
Yeah, you're fucking welcome, internet.
Yeah. Yeah, so there you go.
That's it. And like, I mean, we don't really have to go into the combat aspects of it that far. It is more of a fighter than it is than your classic skeleton. It's going to be harder to kill.
Yeah, but it's still going to go, like, if that's its job, it's going to fight.
This one's going to fight. And this one is compelled 100%, right? Because it's controlled by the circlet, so you're not really going to be able to get away from it. What do we got next?
So we're going to move on to the Skeletal Knight. This is found in Dragonlance, Shadow of the Dragon Queen. To me, I think we've compared other creatures to the Ringwraith style creature, like wights and things. This kind of speaks to me that way as well. It's like the Ringwraiths of D&D. They are typically serving an evil being and are undead, undying due to their epic failures in life. Great. Have we heard that before?
I feel like we've heard this before.
They are medium undead, typically lawful evil. They are also AC of 18 because they have plate armor. The average HP is 112.
Wow.
Speed of 30 feet and CR 7. So they are on a mount. So harder to kill, a bit more terrifying. Just need to smash away quite a bit more to try and destroy this one.
Smashy smash.
All average or above average stats, with Dex and Charisma being the lowest at 0, but Con is +3 and Strength is +5. So they got a bit more beef to their smash. They have the same skeleton damage and condition immunities and dark vision of 60 feet. It understands the languages that it knew in life, but can't speak.
Okay.
We're back to that. It also has the unusual nature. And the Skeletal Knight also has undead fortitude. So if it drops to 0 HP, it must make a con save. Let me try that again. The Skeletal Knight has undead fortitude. So that means that if it drops to 0 HP, it must make a con save. And the DC is 5 plus the damage taken when it drops to the 0 HP.
Okay.
Unless it was a critical hit or bludgeoning damage, because we know bludgeoning is way worse.
Bad for bones, yeah.
So it must make that con save. On a success, it drops to 1 HP instead. So it just kind of can save itself, essentially, in one last effort. The Skeletal Knight has multi-attack. It can make 3 attacks with its blade or axe in any combination. It has Enervating Blade. So this weapon is a melee attack, 5-foot reach, +8 to hit, and does 3d6 +5 necrotic damage.
Wow.
So that's a bit more hefty. And a similar thing that we've heard before, it can't, target can't regain hit points until the start of the Skeletal Knight's next turn. It also has a throwing axe, straightforward throwing axe, melee or ranged. +8 to hit, 2d8 +5 slashing damage. So the enervating blade has much more bang. So I would imagine this creature is always going to go running into battle, and if it can get into melee within that 5 feet, it's going to.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the Skeletal Knight.
A little more badass.
Yeah.
All right.
The image is pretty intense, too. You really get the like, armor focus.
Lord of the Rings Wraith bullshit.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, very much
that's
so.
maybe where it came from, too. Just that Terror Knight.
Terror Knight.
Yeah.
There should be a headless horseman on that sucker.
Yes.
You're like, oh, sure, why not? All right, let's raise some dice for this one then, my gaze.
Ooh.
I can't see.
Knocked me from 18 to 2. Thanks.
Yeah, so
Miaca.
Miaca, you're first. You're going first.
You're first.
All right, let's elaborate on some possible quest ideas or encounter ideas for these ones. I'm going to switch it up because skeletons are boring. So, quest or encounter?
Tell us how you really feel, Megan.
You bore me.
Encounter. I'm gonna reach back into the dual hand thing. Maybe this thing just comes running at you.
Mm-hmm.
Just for no reason, ready to just hit you. You're in its territory. It's gonna come and get you.
That's gross.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and 3 attacks. You don't see 3 attacks very often.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, it's a big piece to mention, is
Yeah.
the fact that it has the 3 attacks. Like, that's pretty fucking intense.
Yeah. So it could do a ranged attack first,
Yeah.
and then get up to you and do 2 blade attacks.
Yeah,
it's any combo.
It's on horseback, obviously. It's gonna have to be. The fact that it's plated armor of an AC of 18 is pretty intense. And the fact that it's gonna throw axes at you, that's pretty fucking frightening.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. I don't even know if I would have these attached to anything. I feel like these would just be wandering knights that would just feel like they're too cool for school for anyone else, you know?
Yeah, that is fair.
Yeah.
They are just an epic failure on their own.
Yeah.
Like, yes, I fucked up a long time ago, and now this is
I'm
me.
just gonna wander the world by myself, right? And like, if you take the time to figure out its backstory, cool. But again, they can't speak, and I think that's the hardest part for me. Is yes, we talked about how like it's neat for them that the fact that they can't.
Yeah.
But like at the same time, like if you're gonna have these characters that have such rich backstory, it's hard to accept that they can't say it out loud. So like as a DM, you're gonna have to figure out ways for them to figure out why they exist in the world, why they're here. Are they wearing an emblem of their queen? Like, are they, like, what is it that attaches them to the world that you're operating in that your team can go towards, right? Because, like, if they are going to be operating against, again, I'm going to go back to my queen with the giant circlets. She's going to have a crest or something, right? And so, like, you might come across this crest all over the place, like, as, like, an exploration thing in a quest that you're looking for this queen that operates under this banner, right? And, like, these knights are now the bannermen of this queen. Mm-hmm. And, like, so their armor now has that emblem on it. So that's going to be an exploration and clue that this might be able to take you to where this queen is going to be, or you're getting close. Yeah. Right?
Question.
Again, we're skipping body horror today. Role-playing. Whose thoughts about role-playing?
Like, they are battle ready. That is what they're gonna do. They're gonna come at you. They're gonna attack you by any means if you're in their way or...
They're not gonna stop to talk.
No.
They're not gonna let you pop off your monologue and questions just to find out they can't talk back to you, right? They're just gonna come at you and lance you in the face.
But having those clues of, like, maybe, like, like you said, the symbol of, like, the queen's court or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, dropping those little pieces of, like, you're getting close to, like, something, like, even bigger, so...
Yeah, exactly. Like these things are undead, but they're clearly armored.
Yeah.
They're clearly a hell of a lot harder to kill.
Yep.
Like, it's just, yeah.
Yeah, and they are relentless. Yeah, they don't care about being destroyed themselves. They've lost everything already. Mm-hmm. So they're like the OG skeleton where they will fight until they are destroyed.
Yeah. Kill or be killed. That's how they roll. They do have a lot of combat tactics. Let's talk about that one. So, like, what is your favorite combat aspect to them? We talked about the fact that they have the ability to do 3 attacks. Yeah. Is there anything else in there that interests you guys?
I think what's interesting is how hefty that will hit, and I don't think players will realize that a skeleton-type creature like this can prevent HP replenishment.
Yes.
So that's the big one.
The enervating blade or whatever that is?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's a big window to the fact that you are fighting something that is going to be harder to kill. Is that like you see this thing coming from the distance, it runs up to you and then it hits you with this fucking blade, and then all of a sudden the DM is basically like, hey, like, well, you can't regen HP until the end of the next turn, right? That's going to be a big, wait, what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't do what?
Yeah.
So.
And then on to the second attack and third attack. Like, if it hits in all 3 attacks on the same creature, that's 96 plus 15 necrotic damage. Like, 96 potentially is a
fatal,
lot of
depending
damage.
Yeah, and depending on like what what tier your players are at, that could be lethal to your squishy rogue or your squishy wizard, right?
Yeah, and
3 throwing axes to the face. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. And if the healer is like, "Oh, I got you. I'll send my aura that way or whatever," and the DM goes, "That does nothing." So that's fun, I would say.
Yeah. It's the 3 attacks from me, and one of them you can throw an axe at me. Like, that's just disrespectful.
Too many things. It's so many things.
Yeah.
Right?
I
Like,
can just imagine your glare if like you duck because an axe comes flying at you. It's like, oh,
Like, that really happened?
you son of a bitch.
Yes.
I'm gonna come at you.
Just
All right.
throwing my attitude around.
Your attitude is my favorite attitude, though. And of everybody who's ever given me attitude, Miaca, you're the one that I accept the most.
Perfect.
All right. Skeleton Lord.
All right, so these are souls of nobility, like lords and kings. They are legit scary. They have a power to make their opponents, even the bravest, feel fear. And you can find info on this in Minsk and Boo's Journal of Villainy. All right, so they have a CR of 9. These 2 are medium undead and lawful evil with an AC of 18. Their hit points come in at 16d8 plus 64.
Wowie wow.
Yep, that's a lot.
That's a lot.
Their strength is a crazy 20 points, which is very strengthy for a skeleton. I'm proud of that one.
Very strengthy.
They have the same vulnerabilities, resistances, and immunities as the skeleton warriors, so only bludgeoning magic weapons can do serious damage. They are obviously immune to poison and non-magical attacks. But this is where they differ. They have this thing called the Fear Aura. Now, if you plan on attacking this thing within 20 feet of it, you automatically must make a DC 17 Wisdom saving throw. If you succeed, great, you're immune to it for the next 24 hours. But if you fail, you're frightened until your next turn.
I fucking hate that ability.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like the warriors, they too have advantage in saving throws against spells and other magical effects. They also have a great sword too, but they get 3 swings with it instead of the 2. So it's plus 12 to hit, and when they do, it's 2d6 plus 9 slashing damage.
Amazing.
Yep.
What is the save on the being feared ability again? Like, what's the save you have to roll?
A DC 17 Wisdom saving throw.
Okay.
17's high.
So I would like to point out, I have been in a final battle with something that had this ability. A lot of undead creatures and other creatures in D&D 5th edition have this ability. To just make you frightened by walking into a room and seeing it. Very common. I went into a big bad evil guy fight, and my paladin, who is charisma based, could not hit the DC for the wisdom save.
Wow.
And so my fucking paladin wouldn't fight. Couldn't go towards it because that's what the frightened does. You can't, and so I couldn't get into melee range. So can't use any of my smites, can't use any of my abilities, I was literally useless for like 6 rounds in combat.
Ability.
From one fucking and then the fucking DM had to throw me a bone. Literally, because we're talking about the undead. Just to be able to fight in this fight. Because I could not unfrighten myself.
Yeah.
It was so fucked up. But like...
It's like cheating.
Yeah.
Like, you don't get to cheat.
And that's like and I feel like it's so underutilized. Because like we talk about a lot. I'm going to say a lot of the creatures we've talked about, Casey, over the years we've done this podcast, have had this ability.
Yeah.
But rarely does it come up, and rarely does a DM use it to their advantage. And rarely does it affect your team so harshly. But, like, it can happen that you have a barbarian or a fucking, like, again, a paladin or anything that's not wisdom-based.
Yeah.
That's just frightened the whole fucking time.
Yeah. And, like, quickly your meat shield could just be out of the game.
Yeah.
For potentially many rounds.
But then that's advice to a DM that if you want to put your meat shield out of, like you know, the go about for at least a couple of rounds until they frustratingly finally get the roll, this is one way to do it, is find creatures and find that have this ability.
Yeah.
I feel like we don't talk about this ability nearly enough.
Yeah, it's
but
a
like,
bad one.
It's it can be debilitating, right? All right, let's talk about these ones. Let's drop my hat on the floor.
Are we rolling?
We can roll.
All right.
Just because I know you guys need order in this house. Hey, Hayden. All right, Casey, you're going first with a 17, Miaca second with a 7, and I will rock up the bottom with a 3.
Fine.
All right, any added quest ideas for these ones?
Okay. Well, any scenario we have already talked about, I think these can come into play. They absolutely have that extra, like, kick to them with like, being able to do the ability of frightened, other things.
Yeah.
But
they just feel like another part of the army.
Yeah, they are.
Which sucks because they're technically a lord or a lady. They are of nobility. And all I can think in my head was this is Miaca. When she dies will become a skeleton lord.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, like they're going to be the ones, like, you know, several layers in to the fodder.
Yeah.
And probably prefer to just stand back and let, you know, other skeleton types wear away at hit points for a while.
Yeah, like I feel if you're building a skeleton army, you're going to get your base skeletons at the front.
They're like the general.
Yeah,
you know?
Right, that's the thing. Yeah, and then like the skeleton warrior is going to like take up the next space, and then the skeleton knight is going to take up the next space, and then right at the top end is probably going to be your skeleton lord, which in my mind, if I was to build a quest around this, would be the one that has all the bangles and or the circlets that's controlling the army. Yeah, right.
Yeah,
have the intelligence to do that. Right. What about you, Miaca? Did you have any other quest thoughts?
As far as a quest, like making your players, what if they walked into the aura and they didn't but they haven't seen the skeleton lord yet? I don't know. I would play around with that fear aura a bit.
Yeah,
I think
that's a good exploration piece, and a good added combat item. Yeah, right. Like that's a good clue that you're coming into one of these. All of a sudden, like your unafraid barbarian is suddenly afraid to move forward.
Filled with dread,
because they're the one that saw it first. Because they're like, again, what's your marching order? Thanks, DM.
The other, it's like, okay.
Well, the barbarian's going first. Yeah, is going to fail that wisdom check, and that's going to be your clue that something's coming up. Yeah, or your rogue is going to be frozen in fear. Your rogue is going to run ahead to try and scout out what's going on, and then your group is going to catch up to them because they're standing there still. Yeah. That would be...
Yeah, or they do come running back, and they're like, I can't go in there.
Not doing it. Hard pass.
I'll wait for you guys here, and I'm done.
Going home. We're done. Yeah. Fucking yes. How would you roleplay one of these?
I'd roleplay it like a general.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Barking orders?
Yeah.
Yeah. With his brain mind?
Fuck you. Got more to it, so...
Going back to Game of Thrones... Just them lined up, just silent while everyone else is like fighting.
The Council of Skeleton Lords. Oh my god. That's it. You know, I fucking love building a good council. Council of Skeleton Lords. I'm doing it. Yeah. You guys have learned now that you've played at a table with me, I love a good council.
Oh yeah.
Amazing. All right, any final thoughts about the Skeleton Lord? Or do we want to move on to the Skull Lord?
I'm ready to learn about some Skull Lord.
Skull Lord it is.
Okay. Yeah. Oh boy. Okay. So, Megan, I need you to just do your best to keep your composure.
Don't tell me that.
Because there might be a name you recognize in the spiel I have to do, so just...
Throw down.
calm down.
I'm here for you.
Ahead of time. Okay, so Skull Lords reside primarily in the Shadowfell, where they endlessly try to claim larger regions of land and wage war against other Skull Lords using undead hordes.
Okay.
Scary lands that they are just trying to claim more of. The first Skull Lord emerged from the chaos after the fall of Vecna, where Vampire Kaz betrayed him, taking his eye and hand. Calm down. It's okay. I know!
Holding it together.
So, Vecna's warlords fell into turmoil and chaos in seeing this happen to him, and ultimately caused the end of Vecna's plans, because it threw them so much.
Threw them for a little wait, what?
And in a fitful rage, Vecna fused them in groups of 3 as a punishment for the infighting and failure as their captains and war leaders. So essentially, you can't stop fighting with each other? Here, do it forever with no escape. And fuse them. So, since Vecna, other evil creatures have created their own Skull Lords, and they all end up in exile. So, I'm going to show you an image of it.
Okay.
Because I feel like that sets the scene.
Sets the tone.
So, it is...
Oh my god.
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah.
so for those that aren't looking, it is basically a skeleton that is covered in very, very fancy armor, carries a lovely staff, and has 3 skeleton heads.
Yeah.
And long fingernails, I would like to point out.
Yeah.
How do you include that in there?
Definitely. Yeah.
Oh,
And
wow.
so, in terms of stats, we've got, it's a medium undead lawful evil creature, AC of 18. This is something that is a theme along the way.
Okay.
With that plate armor. Like, you kicked it off perfectly for this episode, Megan. 'Cause-
Armor your skeletons.
Yeah, it can fuck you up.
Talk to your kobold. Armor your skeletons.
Yep. Hit point average is 105. Speed of 30 feet. We're gonna dig into the meat. No, we don't have meat. We're gonna dig into the bones.
We're gonna rifle through these bones.
We're rifling through the bones. This is a CR of 15.
Fuck shit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jeez.
Alright. So stat block is all above average, ranging from +2 to +5. Charisma's +5. They have dark vision of 60 feet and notably high perception of 22.
Wow.
Damage resistances: cold, necrotic, bludgeoning, piercing, slashing from non-magical attacks.
So this bag of bones is resistant to bludgeoning damage. Phenomenal.
Yes.
Keep going.
Damage immunities: poison. Condition immunities: it says bounded. I think that's an error.
Yeah, but it's gonna be blinded, charmed, deafened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Condition immunities: blinded, charmed, deafened, exhaustion, frightened, poisoned, stunned, and unconscious.
I'm sorry, I just want to go back to that because I'm just imagining now that I am immune to being bounded. How dare you try and bind me?
I cannot be bounded.
I cannot be bounded. Put your ropes away. I shan't be bounded.
Yeah, it should be that way.
Anyways.
It knows the languages in New in Life.
Okay.
And here we're going to go into the abilities. So we're into legendary resistances with this creature. It gets 3 per day, and that is when it can have a success on a saving throw instead of fail. So it can do it 3 times a day.
Nice.
It has Master of the Grave.
Yeah.
Any undead ally within 30 feet can roll a saving throw with advantage, and it regains 1d6 hit points when it starts a turn in that range. So it heals its allies, and a 30-foot range is big.
Yeah.
It It also has evasion. So on a failed dex save, it takes half damage instead of full damage, and on a success, it takes no damage.
Yeah, that's dope.
Yeah. It also has unusual nature, which I think we've talked about enough.
Mm-hmm.
We know that.
He undead.
Yep.
So you will find the Skull Lord in Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes, and the newer Mordenkainen presents Monsters of the Multiverse.
Tomb.
Every time, Megan. Every time. I'm moving on. So, what I have described so far is the same in both books, aside from a slightly higher HP average in the Monsters of the Multiverse. However, we're about to dive into some bigger differences between the two books with legendary actions and spellcasting. Okay, so spellcasting. In Tome of Foes.
I hate you. I hate you so much.
In Tome of Foes, it has the Skull Lord as a 13th level spellcaster using Charisma. So ICU DC 18 and a plus 10 modifier. It knows up to 7th level sorcerer spells with your sorcerer level spell slots for each level. It has 6 cantrips that it knows, including Mage Hand, Chill Touch, Poison Spray. Of note for other spells it has, Finger of Death, Eye Bite, Cloud Kill, Cone of Cold, Fear, Magic Missile, Dimension Door, and Expeditious Retreat.
So yep, CR 15. She check out.
Yeah. So it gives a good hint on how to play this monster. It maliciously attacks and also has self-preservation. So if it's getting low in HP, it's going to Dimension Door and disappear on you.
It's going to do as much damage as it can before it leaves.
Yeah.
Boo.
Yeah. So intense. Like, this will just fuck you up for many, many rounds of combat. In Monsters of the Multiverse, however, the Skull Lord still uses Charisma for spellcasting, but it can only cast 2 cantrips at will, Mage Hand and Message, twice per day, each Dimension Door and Fear, and once per day, each Cloud Kill and Cone of Cold.
Okay.
And that's it. So it completely changes how you would tactically play this. Because this is not a go in there and fuck shit up. This is mess around a bit, do some big hits, but then you're going to manipulate and leave.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's a shocking difference
Yeah.
in how they built both of those out.
Yeah. No, I hear you.
So now into actions. In both books, the Skull Lord gets multi-attack. It can make 3 attacks with its bone staff. It has... Megan, you're on today.
Just not letting it go, that's all. Go on. Pop off.
Yeah, I'll pop this anyway.
We're just gonna kill Miaca.
Love it. So the bone staff has 5-foot reach and does 1d8 plus 3 bludgeoning plus 4d6 necrotic.
Could you imagine?
But wait, there's more.
There's more? Okay.
And then in Monsters of the Multiverse, we see a ranged spell attack ability that can be swapped in as well. So in Tome of Foes, it's multi-attack, melee attack only.
Mm-hmm.
And then in Monsters of the Multiverse, they add a ranged spell that it can do in those 3 attacks. This is called Deathly Ray, and it's a range of 60 feet, 1 target, and deals 5d8 necrotic damage.
Well.
So it gives it just that extra spin. Does it make up for the loss of all of those other spells?
It really doesn't.
Hell no. It does not.
Yeah.
Alright, so legendary actions.
Oh, we love to hear it. Yeah, we love to hear it.
It can take 3 legendary actions per round. There are some changes to how many actions something can take to do in the 2 books. Tome of Foes, it can take it can make a bone staff attack that costs 2 actions, but in Monsters of the Multiverse, it only costs 1. And that can be the Deathly Ray ranged attack or the bone staff attack. Tomophos, it can cast a cantrip. Remember, it has 6 options there. And this is not even listed in the Monsters of the Multiverse. Because there's less focus on spellcasting.
Yeah, it's true.
So
that makes sense.
they're not even going to bother having it as a legendary action.
Yeah.
Both versions, the Skull Lord can make a move action with no opportunity attacks as a legendary action, and in both versions, it can summon undead. In Tomophos, it costs 3 actions. In Monsters of the Multiverse, it costs 2.
Yep.
Which, when you start playing creatures with legendary actions, you realize how important those differences are, because you only get 3 per round. So if something costs 3, that's all you get to do.
Yeah.
If it costs 2, you get to play a bit more with that. So It makes a big difference. So what Summon Undead means is up to 5 skeletons or zombies appear in an unoccupied space within 30 feet. They obey the lords and roll into initiative. It can only have 5 undead summoned at one time. So, yeah, you've destroyed their fodder in front of them. It can just summon 5 more and just keep doing it. It's legendary actions. So that was a lot of info, but the differences between the Skull Lord in the 2 books is quite drastic. And in my honest opinion, it absolutely changes the way you play this guy. They've taken away the powerful spellcasting, and I do not think they compensated well with some more powerful attack abilities.
Yeah.
So I don't know. And the CR didn't change in either version, and I think it should have.
Yeah, the CR not shifting is what gets me, but I do like the fact that if you wanted to play, again, a different play style as a DM, you can play either I'm going to be a heavy spellcaster that's going to make this battle last a lot longer, versus I'm going to have minimal spells, you're probably going to kill me a little bit faster, but I'm going to disappear sooner than I would if I was, like, the spellcasting version of, right?
Yeah.
But, like, it's very powerful. And, like, this actually, weirdly enough, does come up a lot when I came to Vecna and Cass, and, like, the builds that originally created for these. They used to be super powerful, and then they nerfed them when they redid them for, like, newer campaigns, like, to rebalance them for 5th edition almost. So sometimes they do that a lot, as they feel like it is more rebalanced where they do the remakes, but sometimes we're all like, well, that's shit, because when I played this back in my day, it was a CR15, and now it says it's a CR15, but this feels like CR6, you know, like...
Yeah, we're totally going to beat that with this.
Yeah. So, all right, well, let's talk about it a little bit more. Let's roll some dice. All right, so it's Casey with a 12, and then me with a 7, and then Miaca with a 6. All right,
Nice.
Creative quest ideas for these. I think we're getting to a nice, meatier potential quest here.
Yes. Easily big bad evil guy. And like you said, I guess you could throw them in as not the big bad evil guy, even though the CR is 15, with the other version that's less spellcasty.
Yeah.
I think you're going to find this very much more location specific. It makes the most sense because of just the history of how these are created to go into the Shadowfell, to have these be an encounter.
Yeah.
So it could be part of a big side venture of your campaign. It could be the main venture that your group is prepping to enter the Shadowfell or finding a way to the Shadowfell.
Yeah.
And then this is something they're going to find.
No, I like the fact that, like, I would play on that they used to fight with each other.
Yeah.
Like, and again, to your point, very area specific. That if you're going into the Shadowfell or to one of these areas, you are playing like basically a Game of Thrones style game of like the skeleton, like Skull Lord to the north and Skull Lord to the south.
Yeah.
And they're at war with each other.
Yeah.
And you have to kind of decide like which side you go to. And I would love to play this as a love story because like that's just what I do.
Aww.
But like it would be like your lord and then your lady that are for some reason just because they're compelled to argue and fight. But you were just in some large marital dispute that has lasted longer than it's necessary.
Yeah.
Right? Real Romeo and Juliet bullshit.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you, Miaca?
No, I agree with both of y'all. Like, you got like the Skull Lord that lives on top of like the mountain or whatever, and there's like a bunch of people who have like heard rumors about him or whatever.
Yeah.
Something like that. So definitely playing into what you both were saying, pulling on those aspects.
Mix it in together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Body horror? I don't know if there's much to add to body horror for this one, other than the fact that there are 3 skulls. That's the main physical difference with these ones.
Yeah. And I think, and it does speak the language isn't new in life. So the fun, interesting spin you could do is that the 3 skulls don't all speak the same languages.
Yeah.
They might have in common, but maybe they can communicate in like other languages as well. And I think they would still try and argue and work independently. So you could kind of spin that in the
like, roleplay aspect of it.
The roleplay aspect, and then have maybe in the body horror of like they might be gnashing at each other.
Trying to bite each other? Yeah.
Like, not agreeing on the tactics that are being out there, so it could kind of be just another level.
One controls the hand, just flicks the other one in the forehead.
Yeah.
What about you? Make anything else added for body horror or even roleplay?
Yeah, honestly, maybe not really like horror, but like I see them as overcompensating for their like 3 heads. Like, similar to that picture, like, they dress so fancy and, like, just overdoing it. Like, don't look at the other heads. Like, yeah.
It's got, like, a giant headdress that just covers the other 2 heads.
Yeah, like, these things are funny to me.
Oh, my God. Exploration clues that you'd think you might be coming up to one of these.
I kind of like how you talked about the feud between like 2 ruling over different lands next to each other.
Curse on both your houses. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and I think you could even not be seeking out the Skull Lords, but be navigating on the road and come across a feud happening or a battle between these 2 Skull Lords and their hordes fighting, and you are just like, what is happening?
Like, I'm going to skirt around this.
Yeah.
I'm going to go back.
Right? And maybe you do, and maybe the path, the only way forward is through, like, this, like, cavern or valley that they're fighting in. And so you have to try and navigate your way around or stealth your way and not be noticed. And yeah, like, maybe you end up interacting and picking a side, maybe, you know?
And then with knowing our group, you'd pick the wrong side.
Yep.
That suddenly, like, unleashes some weird evil onto the world, like Vecna Reborn, you know what I mean? Like, fuck that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I thought that could be kind of fun.
That's fair. What about you, Miaca? Exploration clues?
No, I totally agree.
Yeah.
I like the whole, like, the King of the North, Queen of the South.
Yeah.
And, like, dealing with the, what's going on in between them. Talking with the NPCs and, stuff like that. Piecing together their story.
Yeah, so hear me out. This is how I picture it happening in my head. This is going to be a war that has been waged for years.
Yeah.
Because skeletons and undead don't tire, don't require food, don't require sleep, don't require any of this. They've been fighting for years in this battlefield.
Yeah.
Constantly raising more of these skeletons, doing all these things. Not only that, but at one point maybe there were lifed bodies, therefore there are boneless here. There are these weird fucking blobs here. Everything we've talked about today is in this battle and has been going for hundreds of years.
Oh my God. Yes.
Because just going at it because like they can.
Yeah.
Right? And there's like it's just never ending.
Yeah.
So it's just like who gives in first, make the love story happen to stop the war. Just saying. Like,
of course.
Like, that's the only way. Otherwise, they're just going to keep fighting for the rest of their lives, right? Like,
the energy.
The energy of this guy's bone staff. My guy. You're welcome, Mia.
Oh, thank you.
I want to rename this episode to Bone Staff Energy.
Yeah.
Just throwing that out there.
Bet it's polished.
No, you better be polished. All right. So, as always, let's talk about a couple of other possible skeletons that you can utilize within your campaigns. As I mentioned at the beginning, skeletons come from anything that is living once and has bones. So let's be real. So in the book, Infernal Machines Rebuild, there are some skeletal creatures that you may come across that have been built into the system. A lot of this happens due to utilizing time-altering machinery to age out creatures around you, which causes them to become life skeletons. So we do get creatures like the skeletal giant owl, polar bear, owl bear, and what's worse, a two-headed owl bear.
Oh,
All right.
All of these creatures utilize that creature's stat blocks, but then just gains the ability of being an undead, such as the bludgeoning damage vulnerability, obviously because it becomes undead, and it has its immunities, such as like it's all the same immunities you get when you're an undead.
Yeah.
Same thing. So basically what makes each one a little bit more frightening is that your giant owl can fly with a speed of 60, but only has a walking speed of 5. They are a CR of 1/4, but just physically are more frightening and again can fly.
Yeah, when do you see an undead flying? Like,
Clacking bones,
yeah.
owl bat thing flying at you. Polar bears are up to a CR2 with a strength of +5, a speed of 40, and a swim speed of 30, and are a lot more perceptive. So just, again, like you're fighting a bone bear, you know? Like, fuck that.
No.
Owl bears. So anyone who's played D&D kind of knows what an owl bear is. They are naturally ferocious creatures. So when they're undead, they become a CR3. So on top of all their undead qualities, they have an added speed of 40 instead of 30, and then their strength again is +5. Two-headed owl bears, they are up to a CR3. They can now multi-attack with their beak, because owl bears have... There's two beaks. And has advantages against being deafened, blinded, charmed, stunned, or knocked unconscious. Yeah.
2 heads are better than 1.
Yeah, and again, like, owl bears are inherently, like, ferocious, scary beasts. Like, they're gonna want to kill you. So, and, like, that's the thing, that all these are built within the Infernal Machines guide, as they're creatures that were once living, and then because within this book you have the ability to do time alterations, they're now just angrier versions of their previous predecessors. But this kind of shows me that you can basically make anything into a fucking skeleton and utilize it, right?
Yeah.
Just use its living stat block and give it undead capabilities.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right. So within Storm King's Thunder, one of my most favorite books recently, there's a possible encounter where a fire giant's tooth is found. If it is picked up, it unleashes what is called the Thunder Beast skeleton, which will then focus down and murder whoever is holding said tooth.
Ooh, I like it.
This follows the Ankylosaurus stat block with the changes of it gains a bite attack on top of its tail attack. It's vulnerable to bludgeoning damage because it's skeleton. And then gains, of course, the undead immunities. And then gains dark vision. Otherwise, they're considered to be a huge beast with an AC of 15, speed up to 30, +4 to strength, and +2 to con, and this makes them a CR3. And then again, on top of that, they can bite and use a tail attack.
That's pretty dope and damaging.
Yeah. It's basically like a giant dinosaur bones.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So then within the Critical Role book, The Netherdeep, there is an optional encounter where you can come across a pile of bones that will slither back together and form the Bloodfin. For those who don't know what a Bloodfin is, it is basically a giant, ferocious-looking eel that's covered in blood. The image in the book, fucking frightening. Screeching eels, you know?
Gross, yeah.
This uses the slithering Bloodfin stat block, which is also found within that book, with the added undead features, but also gains resistance to piercing, slashing damage, as well as immunity to being charmed, deafened, frightened, paralyzed, and poisoned. In general, the slithering bloodfins explode when they die, causing extra damage to those around you, and can even swallow you. They are a CR of 9.
Oh
my gosh.
Being swallowed by
Yeah.
a skeletal eel.
Yeah.
How?
Painful.
Yeah.
With pain, Miaca.
Okay, I'm
With
like,
pain.
what?
Yeah, because
They
nothing
get
is...
trapped in their ribs.
Oh,
You I hate it.
I don't like that.
Oh my god, okay, so I'm gonna have to read it in a second, because now I'm imagining how awesome would it be if you got swallowed by one of these things, but it is just a tube of bones, and they're trying to slash it to get you out of it, but because it's bones, they can accidentally hit you.
Ooh,
Like,
yeah.
I mean, the same thing would happen if you were hitting a fleshy snake that you were inside, and they actually sliced the section that you're sitting in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the same, but you can see them. So why would you? You know, like just. Anyways, it's all fucked in my mind.
Yeah.
All right, but as always, speaking of all these other undead weird creatures, when would you include these in a campaign as a DM? Anytime you want.
I would throw these in when you're dealing with some sort of skull lord or something more beefy even that can raise creatures, raise dead, raise, like, add some flavor to it, and they're not raising just human skeletons.
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed.
Thinking of that undead battle you were talking about, where everyone's just going at each other, just like animals, other skeletons. Everyone's just going at it. Yep.
So, yeah, I would say I would bring us back to one of the first things I said when we started this episode. I had mentioned that the original base bone skeleton can either be created due to necromantic magic on purpose or by accident. So what I am now imagining is a necromancer who has a wizard's tower, but because of the necromantic magic that's happening around its tower, anything that dies within a certain radius of this tower will then be raised as a skeleton, just because of the necromantic magic that is floating around. Yeah. So you're going to get all kinds of undead animals. You're going to get shrieking eels in the moats of your fucking wizard's tower. You're going to get random feral undead squirrels, you know? Like, you're going to get all kinds of undead shit, just because of the magic that is happening in this area. And that is a good exploration clue that you were getting close to your wizard's tower, or getting somewhere close to a necromancer, because everything around you is undead and dying.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Goodness.
Once again, you're welcome, Internet. All right, what's the most horrifying detail that you would lean into with one of these? And you can talk about any of them. So there were like all regular creatures and animals, up to the fucking shrieking eel thing, you know, as well as like the Thunder Beast skeleton, which is a dinosaur.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Thunder Beast skeleton, like just seeing, like I know there are dinosaurs in D&D, but it's just like just seeing one just walking across, like whoa, like it just feels out of place to me.
Well, it made me think of Eberron and like how like all their monsters then becoming undead capable monsters, right? Mm-hmm. If this one is, why can't we do any of the other ones? Yeah. You know. What about you, Casey?
Yeah, well, and these are creatures that would rip your head off or rip you limb from limb and maybe eat something. So and they're skeletal. Yeah. But they still would. Like an owlbear would like shred into you and have flesh and like so I kind of feel like you would like the horrifying thing is like you might see remnants just like stuck to its its skeleton form inside of like other
eating
because it like devoured that like the head is stuck between like two ribs because it ripped the head off of something and ate
that's
it.
Horrifying. That is horrifying.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, it's not that even just because they don't need to eat, sleep, breathe, and do all these things. Again, if we go back to one of the first things we talked about base skeletons, is that even if they lose their master, they're going to do what they were taught, trained to, and know how to do. Yeah. So if a feral creature who's a predator, and that's all they've known throughout their life, suddenly becomes a skeleton version of itself, it will continue to be a scary predator. Yeah. Just bony.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly. Like it's going to devour you if it would devour you for food or...
Yeah, it'd be like, oh, food, but it doesn't know that it's not getting sustenance from you.
No.
It doesn't fucking know.
That's its tactic.
Yeah, it's just,
instinct.
I'm doing this because I was told that this is what I do.
Yeah, so that's fucked up.
Yeah. Oh, skeletons are fucked up, man.
So, on a scale of 1 to 10 bone splinters, how would you rank these bony bagged bitches as part of the undead landscape in D&D 5th edition?
You gotta know.
Thank you for adapting to my needs.
Alright, first up, skeleton.
Skeletons, I now that we've talked about that there are better skeletons out there, base skeleton, basic, right?
Yeah.
I'm gonna
basic big
bitch. So I'm gonna, but again, super cool. But I'm gonna give it like a 2.
1 in my book. I have no respect for you. You're just a skeleton. That's all you do.
You're a skeleton, and that's all that you do.
Yeah. Next.
Yeah. 2.
2? 2. All right. What's next?
All right, Skeleton Warrior.
3.
Yeah.
You armored your skeleton. Congratulations.
2.
Yeah, I know, right?
All right, Skeletal Knight.
These are the ones that are controlled by the necklace, right?
No.
Or was it the warrior that's controlled?
Warrior.
The warrior's controlled.
Controlled. Got
And
you.
Was the warrior the one that could speak?
Yes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
The knight cannot.
Well, I'd still get the knights. Like, again, we're upping it. 4.
The Skeletal Knight has like the beefy armor and the epic blade with 3
It does.
attacks.
It does
Yeah.
have this is when we get to the 3 attacked versions of these bitches.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're going.
Oh, no, I'll give it a 5 then. 3 attacks is scary.
Yeah.
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 7. I don't like the 3 attack situation.
I don't like your 3 attack situation.
I don't like it, so...
Yeah.
Alright.
Fair enough.
Alright, Skeleton Lord.
They once you know about the Skull Lord, it's like, oh,
Basic.
Yeah.
like
right?
they're pretty. They're more devastating than the other ones, so they gotta be like a 6.
I give him a 7, just because we're getting into more of the magical
Yeah.
capabilities,
Yeah.
right? Because these are the ones now that
Yeah.
you can't kill without magical means.
Yeah.
So-
I was gonna say 3, but I guess a 6.
I guess I'll up it twice as much. You know what? Double it. Whack it in half.
Yeah. Alright, Skeletal Giant Owl.
Did we mention Skull Lord yet, though?
Oh, well,
Did we
sorry.
let's rate the Skull Lord first. Because we just talked about how he is better
I was
than the
so
rest.
confident,
we did
too.
reference.
Alright, Skull Lord.
Skull Lord. I think they're badass as fuck. But so here's the thing. The spell casting version,
Yeah,
9. The
Mhm.
non-casting spell version, 7.
100% agreed.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
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 No.
I like this rating system.
I would say, honestly, I would even say a 10. I think there's so much you can do with them as far as, like, role-playing and setting the map.
It was
Like,
the
setting
love.
the scene,
It was
yeah.
the love story, wasn't it?
It was
Oh.
the love story.
It's always
It was
a love
the
story for
long-distance
you.
relationship for me.
Oh.
Just
These
close
will
enough
become
to
a skull.
touch, but not quite grab.
Alright. Skeletal Giant Owl.
I feel like we can rate the owl bear, like the giant owl, the polar bear,
Mhm.
and the owl bear, and the 2-headed owl that are together.
Yeah, all together.
Oh.
It's like they're all the same to me.
Yeah.
They're just like skeletal versions of their skeletal. Who says skeletal? Who says skeletal? Can we talk
Oh
about
my
that for a
God.
second?
If I'm being science nerd,
Skeletal.
skeletal.
Yeah.
If I'm being like D&D nerd, is skeletal.
Okay, good to know.
Skeletal?
Yeah, skeletal.
Wait, who's saying skeletal? Is this a Canadian thing? I've never heard of
You've never heard skeletal?
No!
Oh, well, maybe. I don't know.
Maybe
We'll
Oh
do it.
my god.
Someone on the internet, look up the linguistics of that for us. Can you put that on the internet so we can figure that out?
It would totally be a Canadian thing.
It might be. I don't know,
Maybe
though.
we should call
Probably.
it skeletal.
It sounds like skeletal to me. It sounds pretty like...
Canadian.
Anyways, that's a huge segue.
Yeah. Okay, my 2 cents is giant owl edges out the other one slightly because it flies.
Because it flies.
Yeah.
That's fair, because the polar
Yeah.
bear's added as a swim speed, which is, like, useful in very specific scenarios.
Yeah.
And owl bears are just generally frightening.
Yeah.
But, like, giant owl, yes, the swooping capabilities of that bitch, not a fan.
Yeah.
Casey, when you said, like, you can see the remnants of what it ate before, and, yeah. Like,
And-
for all of those, that bumps him up to, like, a 10 for me.
Ooh.
I don't want to see that!
And what if the giant owl regurgitates it?
Oh, I don't want to see that process!
It doesn't have the organs to do that, Casey. If we're gonna get into the science, of this skeletal magical animal,
That's too far. That's where
That's
you
where you
draw
That's where you draw the line.
It can't regurgitate.
Casey.
That's ridiculous.
there's no esophagus. How is it gonna react?
Oh my god. Okay, Megan.
I'm gonna like rip this magical game apart, and you're gonna listen to me.
Oh my gosh. Alright. Thunder Beast Skeleton.
Dinosaurs, don't like them. 1.
But giant story.
Dinosaurs,
Yes.
you bore me.
So that's the whole
But I do, again, to your point, yes, it is giant attached, but it's giant attached in a very specific lore. If we're to use them elsewhere,
they're just
bore me.
Dinosaur.
Yeah, dinosaurs.
Okay.
No, sorry, Adam, dinosaurs bore me.
Yeah, my character is not fighting the dinosaur like she would run. But
does that make it a 10 for you then?
Yes, it does.
Okay, there you go.
All of these animals.
10.5.
This has to be high simply because I don't know if you would fare very well if you encountered this.
Are you saying the royal you, or are you looking at me and saying you would not survive very well?
You're being a bit spicy, so I'll say it's generalized you.
You're being a bit spicy.
You're like creeping up to a 9.
Phenomenal. I just want that sound clip of you. You're being a bit spicy. I just need that in my life. Oh man. Oh, yeah. Sure, there's a button on my phone. You're being a bit spicy. Anyway.
Last but not least,
thank goodness.
skeletal bloodfish. Like, what? I'm not going to let that go. I'm going to look that up. I am going to research that skeletal. Skeletal bloodfish, everyone.
We're going to anger so much on the internet with this. Let's put it to a vote. Skeletal or skeletal?
There you go. This one's high for me. It's the like 8, 9.
The fact that it can swallow you.
Yeah.
Yeah, not a fan.
I'm just generally scared of the depths of water and
That's true.
the ocean,
Yeah.
the mystery, and fuck me.
Solid 12 for me.
I'm not a fan either. Like, same thing. Deep ocean. Like,
Yeah,
thought of
just
that.
the deep abyss scares
Yeah.
the fuck out of me.
Not a fan. Yeah, no, I'll throw that as a 10. Gross.
All right.
Oh my gosh.
All right. Now. I need you to take me seriously.
Alright, here we go. Alright. I'm sorry. I apologize.
Sit back. Now it's time to close the crypt on this part of our conversation on Undead and Undead.
Undead.
Undead. I'm never gonna get to go home.
We're so close.
Okay. Everybody take a deep breath.
Alright.
My diaphragm hurts.
Here we go.
Alright. Now.
I'm not looking at it.
Don't look at me. Look at the floor, Miaca.
Turn around. Looking over here.
Now it's time to close the crypt on this part of our conversation on Undead in D&D 5th edition. Stay tuned next month when we rise up to haunt you again with even more terrors from beyond the grave, leaving behind what undead lurks under your skin, and instead exploring what undead lurk under the water.
Oh no.
We just talked about that! I don't want to do it, I quit.
Fuck this shit. Thanks for listening to this episode of the It's a Mimic podcast. If you'd like to support us, we have a donate button on our website, www.itsamimic.com, as well as a Patreon. If you'd like to discuss what you've heard here today, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and at r/itsamimic. For other episodes on other kinds of monsters, you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Thanks again for listening to It's a Mimic, where you never know what you're going to get.
Skeletal!
Let's skeletal.
Let's skeletal out of here.
What does skeletaling look like?
What's it look like when one skeletals? assuming you guys have heard that superstition that when you shiver, it's somebody stepping on your grave.
His chair went down again.
Yeah, man. You're
I
welcome.
never heard that.
You're welcome for that horror
Yeah.
nugget of
Thank you,
information.
Megan.
Every time you shiver now, you're like, fuck, Megan. Get off my grave.
Yeah.
And I'll be like, woohoo.
I don't want to die.
Oh, man. Oh, I get the first part in this episode. Oh, I've got
Yeah, I'm number
got
2.
a solid chunk of, oh, there's a lot of information in this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, team.
Yeah, we kind of we bounce around.
We do bounce around a little bit, but we can always mitigate our conversations around things. I can weasel
Lead
through it,
the
weasel
way.
us through
There
that.
is-
I'll lead you the way into a shorter episode recording.
There's a lot of
If there's anything I know how to do, it is that.
And yet, she didn't.
You're being a bit spicy, so I'll